are live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Reef.
Chair perversity.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Grease Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew?
We're all three here. All three back. Back to celebrate a harmonious and happy America emerging from its viral pandemic. Hands held together. Singing in one voice.
One voice of outrage and frustration.
Well, I liked Dad liked the other intro.
Oh, the newer one that we were doing?
Yeah, well, I was doing it for the coronavirus, and then I kind of stopped. He actually told me he was playing that for someone at Lowe's. Just the intro? Better not play that too loud at Lowe's. You never know what we might say.
So last week I was singing the praises of David Starr, a wrestler. You know, he's he's a good heel, and he has this whole shtick about being like kind of a man of the people wrestler, and like trying to get a wrestling union going. And like 3 days later, he had like multiple sexual assault allegations pinned on him. So,
So what you're saying is you'd like to retract your recommendations.
Yep.
Well, maybe they're trying to union bust, and they're setting him up.
Well, and there's been just like a slew of stuff, people coming forward since that, which is interesting because like 90% of it is all out of the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wasn't going to expect that. But yeah, and they fired one WWE guy, just got fired. And he's been a guest on Giant Bomb. He's Gentleman Jack Gallagher. And he's been the only person I know that's been just immediately fired.
What did he do?
He got somebody drunk at a Christmas party and like ripped her skirt and stuff like that, and apparently tried to assault her. If they didn't have any confirmation, they wouldn't have immediately fired him, so they must have had some sort of confirmation.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a few other WWE guys that are being accused, and they're all being put on hold until investigations are put forward. One was like completely surprising. It was Matt Riddle, who's like, you know, the jolly old stoner of WWE.
Yeah, that's no good. I want to get a tidal wave of that going. That'll undermine your business in a hurry.
Well, I mean, it wasn't any of their like star guys.
Yeah.
That was it so far. Although, like, Randy Orton always seems like he's on the verge of like he was like he has like we play this little prank, and he like shits in people's bags and stuff like that. And like last year I think he got in trouble for exposing himself, but I don't think he like directed his exposure towards women. It was just like anybody in view, so he didn't get any kind of like sexual misconduct appropriated with that.
General nudity.
You're grieving. Let me show you my cock.
And Randy Orton's kind of weird because he seems like a total asshole. He was kicked out of the Marines for like dereliction of duty. They were gonna have, because WWE has the Marine movies, and like he was gonna star of them, and then they thought it was a bad idea, being that he was kicked out of the Marines.
Yeah, probably. I think that one through a little bit, maybe.
But then there was like, then occasionally he's like I don't know, like on the right side of things. He had a friend in, I think it's like Darren something. I think he was a football player, then he was a wrestler. And then later he came out as gay, and he's like one of his best friends, and so he does a lot of like LGBTQ stuff. It's like Randy Orton, that fucking asshole, is like, hey everybody, it's okay. The guy's also black, so he put up some Black Lives Matter posts on his Twitter. It's like, really, Randy Orton? Okay. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll wait till some weird sexual assault allegation comes in.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of that sometimes.
Well, this is like it's all been just specifically just wrestling stuff. This recently.
Why? Just
Well, once one person, gets it, then other people like feel okay to. And then there was a hashtag trending called "Speaking Out," which was specifically with sexual assault allegations in wrestling. But yeah, like I said, it's weird because 90% of it's all coming out of Britain.
Huh.
Which I don't know what to make of that. And one AEW guy was he's being put on hold right now until they investigate. So.
Who's investigating? Like police?
I doubt it.
FBI?
I doubt they just I bet they contact the person, and then they try to get confirmation by contacting other people. I have no idea how that stuff works. So
I don't know either.
anyways, yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is that, I put a link in the show notes for a wrestling match between David Starr and Jordan Devlin, and it's a cool match and all. And then like the other guy in the match also got sexual assault allegations put against him. Well, actually, I don't think his is sexual. I think the person was just allegating just assault.
Just physical violence.
Yes.
Okay.
Which doesn't necessarily make it better, but I don't know. Just took the air of the podcast.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd figure I'd make that correction.
Yeah. We do not stand with a sexual assault.
Well, I hope no one stands with sexual assault, but there are people out there.
Well, sometimes that support the accused stuff it's like that's a point of view, but sometimes that can get carried a little far. It's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I get it. This guy's your friend. I understand that, but can you just rewind here and let's look at this?
No, let's not look at it. We don't want to look at it too closely. It might go away.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's touchy times. Just everyone keep your dicks.
is that a dark turn of phrase? It's touchy times and sexual assault.
When will the touchy times be over?
Never.
Oh.
Keep it in your pants, guys. It's the best way not to be accused of sexual assault is to live like a saint. Well, no, that's not a good example anymore. But
A monk? Has there ever been a monk accused of sexual assault? I mean, there has to be, but
I hope not. Jesus. There's been plenty of priests, but not monks.
Was Rasputin a monk?
no idea.
Own weird thing.
His own weird thing.
So anyway, what else was there this week? It's worth talking about. That wasn't highly controversial.
Oh, just some good old. I don't know. You have any new models?
Oh, I got my Chernobyl 2 model.
Okay.
Started working on that a little bit.
Is that like Me Too movement with like a mini nuclear reactor you can have meltdown in your own house?
No, it's just number 2. It's not Chernobyl TOO. It's this is each one is like the first one was a radiation checkpoint. The second one is the firefighters, which that one's actually sad to do because you realize, these guys all died. I don't know what the third one's going to be. I think it's going to be the liquidators. It's going to be like a group vignette where they have some of the robots and some of the guys. It's like going to be the main model is going to be like a section of the roof. This one came with graphite. Not real graphite, of course. You paint it, but you can see it's like the graphite. Graphite. Yeah, that works. Graphite.
Sort of.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that.
No, it's just a glow. It's okay.
Right.
No, you can probably see it better without the light. Just hold it in front of your face. No, put your hand behind it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there it is. Looks like a graphite channel. Yeah. Scatter that about the ground and see what happens. But I haven't really. I just been working a little bit on the figures. I haven't done anything with the. It's got a cool fire truck.
Oh, really?
They did a brand new mold of the ZIL fire truck. The one that was made at the Priluki Special Equipment Factory number 7 or something. They just made fire trucks, and because all Russian fire vehicles are just military vehicles retooled as tankers, or something. But they're all based on. It's like basically if all our fire trucks were deuce and a halves, like from the 50s to like the 90s.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Oh, I saw your mayor hit Reddit infamy.
Oh, the mayor of Ypsilanti.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was well timed. That's brilliant.
What did he do?
She said
Or sorry.
they were asking her if who she was going to pick, for some posting in the government, the local government, and she basically said, "Well, I have to pick a black guy, or they'll crucify me." They're like, "What? Wait a minute."
It was something like if she doesn't vote yes, they'll crucify her, and then she was the only yes vote. Even the black delegates voted no.
Oh, that could be. I know a lot of people weren't happy. Like, that seems a little ill-timed.
Yeah.
But the mayor of Ypsilanti is I think they've, how many mayors have they? Because we had that lady that was like in her 20s. She was in for a term, and then the guy before her, I forget. Yeah, it's a post that changed his hands a lot. So it's kind of a weird city to be mayor of. There's a lot of different things going on, and
Wait, is there something different? Because like it's not a city; it's called a township, right? Is that specifically different in any way?
well, we're a town. See, we're not part of the city. I don't vote for the mayor.
Okay.
We're a township here. We just have like a council of elders that embezzle our money. In
The
Michigan,
people that embezzle your money are people you know. It's a small town.
yeah. So we're not like, now the city we have 3 times the number of people as a city, but we're all just a bunch of subdivisions and tract houses. We have a community center or like a government. What do we call it here? They have a weird name for it, like government center or something. Yeah, that's where you go get all your do your taxes, and you get your building permits, your dog permits, all that. We have like the government center we go to for that. We're in what they call an incorporated township. So, but yeah, we're not actually associated with the city of Ypsilanti at all.
Okay.
But I just, the city limit's like 3 miles from my house. The city of Ypsilanti is actually pretty small. It's the biggest thing they got there is like the school my son's going to be going to. That's like their big thing in town. But I think in terms of number of people, it's not very big. But it's become like the affordable alternative to Ann Arbor, because the prices of housing and stuff in Ypsilanti is a lot lower. Taxes are a lot lower too. So. But yeah, it's a weird town to. They've had a lot of city officials come and go in Ypsilanti. Like, I have an idea, and then it's like they disappear, resign, whatever. So I don't know what's going on, but our people stay the same. Our council of elders or whatever. It's always the same people.
Yeah, I just saw that randomly on Reddit. And I was like, is this being targeted towards me? Or is it just random?
Nope. Sometimes Ypsilanti makes the news. It's always for good stuff too.
I think the last time I heard Ypsilanti, it was in like an episode of like a Mexican Santa Claus like movie on Mistress Theater. Yeah.
And Santa loses control and corkscrews into Ypsilanti.
Yeah.
Ypsilanti's known to anyone who went to college at U of M or whatever. Like everyone goes to Ypsilanti to get drunk. So that's why it's like well known, and it's got a weird name on top of that. So,
Huh.
but
Yeah, yeah. Anytime you spell it, it seems like, am I spelling this wrong?
yeah, it is a weird one. Whenever I got to order something, it's like, now where do you live, sir? Or they'll ask for the zip code first, then it comes up, and they'll be like Ypsilanti, and it's like, no, it's Ypsilanti. Let me spell that for you. Ypsilanti. And then mine's really weird because I have like a weird name of my street too. So we're like Royal Troon Drive. It couldn't be. Now I'm giving away way too much.
Yeah.
Let them come.
When's your birthday? What's your mother's maiden name?
Here's my social security number.
Have you guys been getting a ton of like texts and calls from just like people trying to bilk you for money?
No, not really.
No, I haven't either.
Who's asking you for money?
No, well, I mean it's just general, just robocalls like, you've won this. Like, no, I haven't. You're just trying to extort information from me.
Oh no, Verizon here. They what did they make them do? They had some call screening service you had to pay for, and I think the state or the federal government, somebody made it mandatory. It's like they don't have to pay for that, and so now I get no calls unless they're calls from within my contacts or
Yeah.
it's a business like, but it's not a bogus. Because you can use those spoofers to where it looks like
Yeah, that's what they
you
do.
get those calls that say Washington D.C. It's like, this must be important. The government's calling, and then it's some lady.
Yeah, the scammers just have like a system, like it's a program that they download, and it just spoofs available numbers from different locations in your area to pretend like it's a local call. Like, no, it isn't. It's coming from India.
I would like to offer you a free vacation. It's like, why? What's free about it? Want to sell me a timeshare in Florida?
Yeah, I've been getting like text ones, and those are I just have to keep like deleting the conversation, and like, oh, they come back with a new number every time.
Oh, that's weird. No,
Yeah.
I never get the text ones.
And you can't text like stop or anything like that because they're not adhering to that whatsoever. So
Yeah, can't do the stop output. Yeah. No, haven't gotten any of those. Not yet. I'm sure it's coming. I used to like the voicemails I'd get in Chinese.
yeah.
Somebody leave me a voicemail, some lady talking Chinese. It's like, what? What does this mean?
There's one like it was like really like well done because it sounded like just a lady in an office like returning a phone call, and they're like, oh, this is, but then like what she's saying is like, oh, this is very specifically vague. Like it's like, oh, this is just a scam, and it's the exact same voicemail every time they call.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't gotten very many of those. It's been a long time. I used to get them all the time. I like the ones where they call and leave a voice message saying they were the police. You've been named in several crimes, and I would always be like, kind of like, well, that might be true, but I'm not calling it back. The police don't usually call and leave voicemails saying they're about to get you. Usually how the police...
You better call back or we're coming from you.
Yeah, I don't know who... That must work because they keep doing it. I don't know who falls for it.
No, I'm not sure. I
Apparently a
talked.
lot of people.
Yeah, there's some. I may have said this last week or maybe it was off air, but like apparently, like when you get those emails and it's like in half English and it's like, the Prince of whatever scam, or it's like if you let us have access to your account, we'll put $3 million in your account or whatever.
Yeah.
And apparently, they're like intentionally leaving it like bad English and stuff like that because they know if you respond to it like, oh, you're an idiot, you're easy to bilk for money.
Oh, okay. So if you respond to the really dumb one, you're just on a list as a mark for...
Yeah.
That's encouraging. I'm glad to know the rest of the world's keeping on its toes. So we watched a movie this week. We're going to
Yeah.
talk about a movie or a book.
I
Watched a
don't know.
movie this week. The Netflix original Highwayman.
The Highwayman.
Yeah, that's right.
Not just any highwayman.
Well, I think there's like several movies just called Highwaymen. But I think there's like a Jim Caviezel one that's kind of interesting.
Oh, is that the one where the guy's like crippled, but he rigs up a car
Yeah.
and he like plays people off each other to get them to kill each other with cars?
Yeah.
He's a car serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an interesting movie.
This was a. Let's see, it stars Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. And this is essentially the Bonnie and Clyde story from the law enforcement side. And there's a lot of like beautiful shots of 1930s Texas. And a
Yeah.
lot of great old cars, but it's a movie that it moves at a very sedate pace. Takes its time, and it's all based on real people. Frank Hamer was a real guy. That's who Kevin Costner is. I like Kathy Bates as the governor of Texas.
Yeah, I read some trivia that came up about her. Her stuff is interesting. Where like, I guess like her husband was the governor first, and then he died, and she kind of like took it over, and then they voted her out, and then they voted her back in later on.
Yeah, her nickname was Ma. They called her Ma Ferguson. What happened was her husband was found guilty of like stealing money when he was governor, and so he couldn't run for governor again, but she could. And they basically ran as a dual ticket, saying, "Yeah, if you vote, Ma in, you're going to get me too." And then, so that's kind of how they governed. It was strange. She was one of those people that was her and her husband both. For that time, they were sort of progressive, but also very corrupt at the same time.
Now,
So
were they the ones that disbanded the Texas Rangers?
Yes,
Okay.
and they essentially did that because of the Great Depression, just budget cuts.
Yeah.
It's because we have the state police, and then we have the local police we fund, and then we've got the Texas Bureau of Investigation, and then we also have the Texas Rangers. It's like, okay, well, the country's lost 50% of its value, so we're going to have to cut some corners. Now, in the movie, they made it seem more like it was a personal thing because the Texas Rangers were out of control, which they were, but it was more of a budgetary thing. And then because when they were reconstituted later, the Texas Rangers could only come from within Texas law enforcement. You couldn't just because it used to be they just nominate people. It's like, here's a gun, go do the will of whatever political boss who wants people murdered, or go kill a bunch of people in Mexico, which they also did. Because in their nickname in Texas is I forget how you say it in Spanish, but basically like the Diablo Texas. It's like the Rangers of the Devil or something like that. They did a lot of the border fighting in the Texas independence movements that came up every so often. That was kind of their origin. Now in this film, of course, they're doing something good. And they did have a love. This movie had a love of guns, which I appreciated, because they had all the basically this guy just went into a gun store and they stacked up all these guns that he would need.
Yeah, there's an interesting gun I never heard of before. It was like a police version of the BAR. It was called like a Monitor 98, Colt 98 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a BAR with a big compensator on it. Forgotten Weapons guy actually shot one.
Oh yeah.
Said it's fun, but it's just wild. I mean, BARs are just.
Well, I thought that one was semi-auto, which would make more sense, but maybe it's not.
I don't know if it. I know the one
because that's always the ridiculous thing about the BAR, where it's like, here's a hunting rifle round, and now fire 20 rounds, fire the entire clip in 2 seconds.
Yeah, 30-06 deer round. Of a fully automatic gun that weighed 40 pounds. Yeah, that was called the Monitor BAR. That was weird that you could actually buy a lot of these guns. Just like if you had money at a gun store.
Yeah.
Like, you want a fully automatic hunting rifle? Yeah, here you go. You want the stick magazine or the drum with that Thompson?
Well, I mean, like, did Bonnie and Clyde, did they acquire their stuff legally?
Probably a combination of stealing it and legally buying it.
Yeah, because we just start off. There's like they're in a prison like work field or whatever,
Yeah.
and then like some guys just have two like 1911s just stashed somewhere in the field,
Yep.
and they make their break for it.
Yeah, and Bonnie's shooting a Thompson up in the air, telling him which way to run. Essentially, that's the signal. I'm going to fire a machine gun into trees. And
Well, at first it was just the horn, but I guess they had her shoot to be more dramatic.
Yeah, it was kind of again, it's an interesting movie. It's a bleak movie. Not like a huge.
Well, it's really interesting to see like the public love affair for Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, well, everyone was poor.
Yeah.
So if you're stealing from banks, which are taking their houses and shit, it's like you're cool. I mean, never mind, like 800 people died, but yeah, it's also weird that these people just kind of worked their way around the Midwest and the South in like a circuit and continued to rob places close to each other for years. They could never really. Well, I mean, things weren't very coordinated, I guess.
Yeah.
And you just had a lot of lawmen in this film and at this time seemed to be like they were just talented gunmen, not necessarily like dogged investigators. It's just like they're good at shooting people, and but you know if you can't get them in front of the right place. Yeah. But yeah, these people there was kind of a hero, a worship around these people. And Bonnie and Clyde I've read books about them, and they're never quite what you think they are. Because Bonnie was, I think her name was Parker.
Yeah, Bonnie Parker.
Pretty smart. She was intelligent. Like she was known to be very intelligent. And Clyde was kind of dumb, but he was exciting, and he was very physically strong human. Like he was noted as someone who's like incredibly strong. Like you want to fight with this guy because he would just beat you to death. But one of his big motivators for being a criminal, and he'd always been a criminal, was he hated prison so much. And he's like, eventually that's where this "you're not taking me alive" shit. He's like, I just don't want to go back to prison. Because he was horribly. I think the first time he went to prison, he was like almost beaten to death and enslaved by the other prisoners. And he said, "Yeah, you're never catching me." And so he managed to just be more violent than everyone else. It's kind of an interesting. He's an interesting human being. Now, none of that is in this movie at all.
No, they're always, like, you don't even see their faces till the end. They're just kind of like they show up every once in a while, and they're specifically shot in angles where you don't ever see them fully.
Yeah, they're just kind of legends that these guys got to shoot.
There's the first, like, one of the first time you see, or like the second time you see Bonnie, you just see her legs, and she has a limp, and like, what's that about? And I read some trivia. It's like something she got a limp from having car battery acid from a car wreck. A battery acid dripped on her leg.
Yeah,
and that's what that's also what she has with the laudanum. What was that, painkiller?
Yeah.
I think that was, or was she taking it for that or something else? I can't remember.
No, she was taking it for. Well, she had been in a horrible car accident when she was like 13.
Yeah.
I think, or maybe she was older, but yeah, she was basically in a lot of physical pain, and she was also about 4'7" and weighed about 90 pounds. So she was like a child-sized person as an adult.
And whipping a shotgun around.
Yeah, full out firing those guns were heavy back then too.
Yeah.
That was your compensation on those guns. They weighed 8 or 9 pounds. Yeah, she was a very tiny person too. But yeah, she had a variety of. I think she was in a very bad car accident, and she had a lot of injuries from that. And you know, their doctrine wasn't too great back then. They just kind of put you back together, and can you walk? Yeah, you're good. And yeah, she was like a morphine addict, really, from what I understood. A lot of this stuff was, a lot of their a lot of the money they stole and stuff went to supply painkillers and things like that, which was all you could do back then. So.
Yeah, that's
so what
right.
you're saying is, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, so what you're saying, the really winner was the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Bonnie and Clyde, they got all the money.
Get the real Coke.
I think back then you could just buy stuff like that.
Yeah. It wasn't like illegal till like the 50s or something.
Yeah, that's when all the fun got sucked out of the room. Couldn't buy morphine over the counter.
Yes, maybe want me to watch the Warren Beatty Bonnie and Clyde movie because I've never seen that. I just know about it.
It's a cool movie. It's a very good period piece too.
Yeah.
And it, I mean, you always know what the dark ending is going to be. Just everything.
Yeah, I've always seen that in like retrospectives of films. Like that's the only part of that movie I've ever seen, and maybe like some other parts where it's Warren Beatty, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to fuck it up. It's like saying Ned Beatty or something the whole time. Ned Beatty is Clyde.
Squeal like a pig.
Yeah, him saying something like, clever or whatever, in film retrospectives. But yeah, I've just never seen that film because I don't think it's like really. I don't remember that getting like a heavy rotation on like TNT or something like that in the '90s or anything.
Yeah, I think I picked it up at the library and watched it like a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of a straight across story about that. It was a little romanticized, as I remember.
Oh yeah. Well, that's because I think that's like what the whole ending's supposed to do. Is supposed to remind you like these are bad people.
Yeah.
And this is what happens to bad people.
That's the thing I liked about this movie is like these were all like awful people in one way or another. It's like, yeah, this is what bank robbery and murder is. It's the good guys and versus the bad guys, but it's like the good guys, they're not all that good sometimes, or they're just damaged people. In a very grim time in American history, and you throw a lot of poverty and stuff, into the mix. And
I also thought it was interesting that Kevin Costner at his age decided to like throw on an extra 15 pounds to better fit the character.
Oh, did he? Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
How old is he? He's like in his 60s now.
Yeah, I think he's in his 60s.
Yeah.
So he didn't, his out of shape look isn't just like Kevin Costner getting old. He was intentionally going for that.
And Woody Harrelson looked like he looked like an alcoholic in this. The character was. I mean, I don't know if Woody Harrelson is an alcoholic. I think he's a pot guy.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, everyone did a good job in this. It wasn't the most engaging movie though.
Yeah, well, it's just very slow paced, but
yeah, it's like the.
Like I don't think that's bad, but this seemed like another dad movie, but this one is actually good.
Yeah, it seemed to sacrifice some character development for gimmicks, and it was kind of hard to get people's stories and get into it because they seem to they jump around between. Who's Frank Hammer and who's his partner Woody Harrelson. Can't think of the guy's name, and how do they relate to each other? It just sounds like they basically killed a lot of people, and it's like when I go to sleep, all I dream about is dead Mexicans. And Frank Hammer's like, well, that's to be expected. It's just kind of it wasn't exactly clear to me, but I enjoyed the movie overall. I just. Was kind of an
and I can't remember. Was this well, it seemed like this was in development hell, so it was forever. It was like since 2005. So I don't know if this was a Netflix rescue or if just eventually Netflix ended up with it.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't know it was in development that long.
Yeah, like originally there was going to be like Robert Redford and somebody else. And at one point it was Liam Neeson as Fred Hamer, and then he got replaced by Kevin Costner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a
Also, I thought like the guy who wrote this is the guy who wrote Young Guns.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that kind of made sense. Yeah, he did Young Guns 1 and 2, and he did that Thunderheart movie. Like, remember that FBI Indian Reservation movie with Val Kilmer? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
that kind of made sense.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stuck out to me in this movie was the some of the film cinematography.
Yeah.
Like they did have some cool scenes of, like, this is how you get to Dallas, and it was basically like a 2-lane paved road, kind of winding through hills. Like, this is before freeways, and this is how long it takes to get around Texas. Like, you can sleep in your car 3 nights and not be halfway across the state. So that was some good stuff. Shootout at the end was kind of cool too.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed the movie a lot. I thought the pacing was good. I mean, it didn't make it. I think if the pace would have been faster, it just would have made it seem like they found Bonnie and Clyde in like no time and didn't have any problem with it. But it actually made it seem like it was more, like an actual investigation and an actual, like, them actually hunting somebody down and not just like, oh, we found him. Just over there. We didn't check over there yet.
Yeah, I like the one part where, like, he picks up a shotgun shell and the guy's like, "Don't mess with the scene." He's like, "Yeah, you got more of them."
Yeah, it's funny that they were tapping phones. Like, back then, they investigated that because they were listening to what Bonnie's mom was saying. It's like, I never think of like wiretaps going on back then, but like, yeah, they would.
But no, I was surprised that movie's in development hell because it didn't seem like it was something that was, like, I don't know, like the dialogue didn't seem bad and the acting didn't seem bad and the overall pace and flow of the movie didn't seem bad. So it's one of those things where usually I assume development hell projects should kind of be shitty in the long run, I guess.
Sometimes I don't like I imagine, like, I'm trying to imagine like what the cost would be, because I imagine if you're doing a period piece that just automatically adds like $15 million to your budget. There might be stuff like that. People don't know where to fit it. Like, where are we going to put this movie? Like, is this a summer movie? Is this trying to go for Oscars? And like, no, it's not going to do either of those. Like, where do you release this movie like, if this was a typical studio movie, like, where are you releasing this in the year? Because it's not good enough to be a summer movie. It's not good enough to be an award season movie. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Is this like an October non-horror movie? You're just going to release it then?
So it's a good February movie. It's got decent pacing and it's interesting enough to probably draw some audiences in February.
Maybe. Well, I kind of see this is kind of like I said, it's a dad movie. Like, you can kind of put this together like Ford versus Ferrari in a way. Like, it's kind of one of those movies. But also, when you think about it, like, you imagine like the pitch is like, you remember Bonnie and Clyde? Like, yeah. Remember all the cops that shot him at the end of the movie? Like, yeah. We're gonna do their side of the story. And they're like, who gives a shit? They're not fucking.
Or are they? So yeah, The Highwayman. Check it out on Netflix. Forever.
I've been falling asleep to a lot of Netflix anime recently.
Okay.
Just trying to check stuff out. So I loaded up Ultraman. This is like a CGI version of the live action show, where it's like, if you look up Ultraman, there'll be an image you recognize, like, oh, that guy. This is like a CG version continuation of the show. Which, when I saw the preview, all I wanted to do was get to the part where there's like an investigation with like a really weird looking guy, where he's like not even a guy. He looks like a rock formation with a glowing eye in the middle of his head.
Okay.
So I just watched the first episode. I don't really have anything to say about it other than it's like interesting, but I don't even know the history behind it. So, and then I started watching the first episode of the new Ghost in the Shell series they have on Netflix.
Oh, okay. How's that?
It's weird. because I was falling asleep to it, so like I barely know the plot of the fucking show. But because it seems like it's essentially Mad Max but with Ghost in the Shell,
Oh, okay.
which sounds like it'd be interesting, but I just kind of don't understand what the fuck's going on. Something about like they the world governments decided they're going to like trying to bolster the economy and letting something happen with the AIs, and they accidentally end up creating like this what they call the sustainable war, where basically just war is all the economy only exists through war.
Oh, okay.
But like it goes so far to the point there's not even countries fighting each other, it's just people fighting each other.
Oh, all right.
And that's how the economy works, and like I don't get it whatsoever. But like I said, I was watching the first episode, but half falling asleep to it, so I did not pick up anything. I'll have to watch it again. This isn't animated traditionally; it's a CG animation, which it's okay. It's kind of like the Altered Carbon show we watched last week, where it's because it's like CG animated, the lip syncing is weird because the dubbing just kind of comes off as weird and out of sync. Whereas in traditional animation, you can kind of get away with stuff with how the mouths move. But the animation is like good and fluid, and like it does action well. But yeah, I prefer the traditional combination of traditional animation. Well, I guess it's not a combination of traditional and CGI stuff, for like they did with the Standalone Complex.
Oh, okay. Well, so I watched that Blood Machines you told me about on the last one.
Yeah, sell Andrew on Blood Machines.
Oh, yeah, you got to watch this. This is,
The title's already gripping. I would say.
well, I mean, I think if you like Warhammer, you'll find a lot you like in here with kind of the visual appearance of ships and technology. It's sort of presented in a way that's
More grim, dark science fiction type of thing.
yeah, it's very visually intriguing. I'm not going to say this story writing is clear and concise as to what's going on, but it's such a visual treat, and they're just playing around with so many things. So it's
because it's essentially more of a music video than it is a traditional movie.
Oh,
it's like
well, that doesn't sound too bad.
Have you heard of the artist Carpenter Brute?
No.
Okay, so he made an album called Blood Machines, and this is essentially the movie based on the album.
yeah, wasn't this movie like crowdfunded?
Yes.
Okay, and because it has has a cool look. It looks like a lot more expensive than what it is.
Yeah.
It's visually, and it's French, so it's
Well, like, did you watch that Turbo Killer?
yeah, the video, yeah.
Yeah. So like that, they basically just filmed that all in a garage and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like, that's what they could do with what they had. But like what the money for this movie gave them was the ability to build sets. And so which really shows.
Yeah.
Because like in that Turbo Killer thing, like, they don't even have the Lamborghini. It's just a dude sitting in a chair pretending to pull the door down. And then they just CGI in it later. And it took them like 6 months to do the CGI just for the music video. So it looks cool, but it's also like, they didn't have the sets. Where here, it's like the sets are there and there's a lot of cool, interesting shit. Like, I like the way the Tracy, the robot, she has like these tubes that are connected to her, like vaguely what's supposed to be your chest.
Yeah.
And like the way the tubes are connected to the body, it looks like they're like fingers, like hands dug into the chest, pulling the chest apart.
Yeah.
Like you can get that read off of it, even though it's technically not hands pulling a metallic chest apart, but that's how it looks. And you're like, what the fuck's that about? And it's French, and they're not going to explain it. So
yeah. Yeah, this is very much like I said, this is
it's in English, but it's all French production.
yeah, and it shows. They're playing around with a lot of ideas and and the visual concepts in this are really cool. Because they make it look like it's shot on old film stock with like burn holes in it and stuff. It's kind of does that
Grindhouse.
Yeah, that grindhouse type stuff. And like I said, episodes have weird length to them. Some of them are
Yeah,
20
I'm not sure.
some
Yeah, I
of
think it
them
was
are
meant to
12.
be just 50 minutes straight, and then when Shutter got it, I'm not sure if Shutter split it up or if it was meant to be that way.
Yeah.
Because it was supposed to be just like 50 minutes straight, and then like I said, like somebody reviewed and said like the way they cut it up made it, like ruin the flow of the movie. But like if you actually like watch each episode individually, like no, they all make sense. Like each episode has its own thing to it. Like
Yeah.
the first episode is kind of like the setup, and there's a lot more dialogue than there is music, and then the second episode is essentially just a music video for the entire length of it.
Yeah.
And the third one's just kind of, I mean, it's some more of a music video, but there's a lot of just like shit going on. And you're like, what's this about? And, like, a lot of curious things happening.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can watch it on the streaming service Shutter.
Yeah, it's it's behind the Shutter paywall, but if you've never used them before, I think you can get a 2-week free trial.
Yeah.
You can do it through your Amazon account too.
Yeah, I did it through my Amazon account. So
You don't have to like go to their website and have a new sign in or anything like that.
it's very very interesting.
And if you do that, either you can also watch. I recommend One Cut of the Dead, or you can watch it because they have Joe Bob Briggs has a show on there. Remember Monster Vision?
Yeah.
So like he has that show. It's called The Last Drive-In, and he does that for Shudder, where they'll just show like a horror movie, and then he'll like cut in and give some things about it. And so if you want to watch it that way, you get two things. You get a good movie, and then you get Joe Bob Briggs stuff in there. And at the end of it, he has like a really great monologue about like film production and like encouraging people to just like make films. Because he talks about how that movie was made, and it was like oh really? It was just that. It was basically people. It was essentially like people in a film class just made that as like an experiment.
Oh, what else did I watch on there?
Oh, did you watch something else on there? Oh,
I
curious.
watched some other stuff. What was that one called? The Void? Into the Void? Where they're stuck at the hospital?
I don't remember that one.
Weird people with these triangular shaped hoods that they wear, or they got like triangle fat. It kind of gets bogged down in silliness, but it's like visually the first like hour of it is really scary and weird.
But that would just did that just get recommended to you after you watch Blood Machines, or was it just like kind
I was
of on
just
there?
scrolling through to see what else
Oh,
Shudder
okay.
had to offer. It was mostly like horror stuff.
Yeah, it's an exclusively horror service.
So
I guess AMC runs it, so that's sort of interesting. I mean, it's only $5 a month, so they don't have a lot of money for production. So I think they did a Critters TV show,
Oh, okay.
which I hear mixed reviews.
Yeah, that could be good. Or
I don't know. Yeah, I don't like that. There's a weird thing with horror movie stuff in general, where like horror movie fans like tend to give a lot of leeway
Yeah,
to what they consider quality and good.
yeah, I've noticed that. It's that any port in a storm effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not getting. This is the only place I'm going to get this, so I'm going to love it. I'm going to recommend it, and then someone like me is going to come around and watch it. It's like, oh, these people tend to like it, and then I'll watch it and I'll be like, why? What did they like about this?
So I don't yeah, because it's weird. Like the audience, it's like I know a guy. He just loves horror movies, like even the shittiest horror movies.
Yeah.
And I think he just likes interesting kills in movies.
Okay. Well, yeah. Subgenre of film movies, I like movies.
Because I remember one time I was explaining, I had this pitch idea for a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie, where I thought of like, all right, how could you make Freddy Krueger the hero of the movie? Which is essentially an impossible task, but it would be an interesting switch. And I have it that like aliens invaded Earth, and the FBI has to track down Freddy Krueger because the only way they can fight the aliens is to get Freddy Krueger to invade their dreams.
Okay.
And then like what do alien dreams look like? And so you just have like some psychedelic hellscape through which Freddy is like killing these aliens in. So like that'd be like visually interesting, character would be interesting. I feel like there's a lot of interesting. And I told him the idea, and he's like, "That sounds stupid." Never mind. Yeah, I just should have had a hatchet, a guy with a hatchet and a mask kill people. You're right. You're right.
I did see a good Freddy Krueger meme once. It was kind of like a candid picture of Robert Englund on the set, just sitting around in his makeup, and underneath, and he was kind of looking into the distance, and underneath it said, "Never stop dreaming." That's pretty good. If you know the context there, that's pretty good.
So yeah, I don't know
Into
horror.
the Void was what I watched. It's kind of a cool movie, kind of half a cool movie, and then it just kind of degenerates into a gore fest of nonsense. Sort of has an interesting ending that doesn't explain it, but it looks cool.
Is it American made or is it in this specific country?
Oh, let me look it up. I think it seemed like American. Seemed like one of those American. Seemed to be one of those ones that's like. No, not Black Sabbath. It's a Black Sabbath song too. Enter the Void. I'm sorry.
Enter the Void. Okay. Because I'm trying to think of that Amazon movie I recommended a while ago. Was that Into the Void?
Maybe it was.
No, the movie you're talking about is not the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, there was some like experimental movie that's like a foreign language film called this. Maybe I'm getting that name. I don't know. Yeah, I think Enter the Void is like that trippy South American movie. What is that fucking? Everyone, hold on. We're searching on the internet.
What are the movies we watched?
Shows you
Oh,
how connected I was.
That movie I'm thinking about is The Vast of the Night, which seems to be.
Right. Yeah. I remember that one.
Oh, you watched that? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it was like that 50s, like kind of like I love the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the ratings for that are dropping precipitously. But
Yeah, well, people are probably
Well,
gonna like the pacing of it.
yeah. It was basically just 8 shots strung together to be a movie.
Okay, sorry. The movie I was just called The Void.
Okay.
It's a Canadian supernatural horror film. So yeah, it was like I said, kind of interesting. Trying to think of who the main guy was.
Yeah, the cover art looks like it's supposed to be some Cthulhu shit going on.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is. It's called cosmic horror. That's the
Oh, okay.
genre, I guess. But yeah, like I said, it's about half a good movie.
All right. I'll check it out sometime.
Yeah, it's just called The Void. Sorry, I was naming it wrong all the time. That's just because I'm stoned. No. Speaking of horror, I read a book this week. Well,
This
I read
month.
a book this year. the 1983 Phantoms by Dean Koontz.
Now, did you get any like information about this being updated at all for future?
I guess when the movie came out, they updated the book a little bit.
Okay.
They did like a quick pass on it, and they put references to O.J. Simpson, and some of the technology references changed a little bit.
Okay, yeah, because I mentioned like a modem was like, Dean Coates was he's like really into like BBS modems in the 80s, or you just throw that in there after a while?
Now, because there was a movie that came out in like what 98, 99.
Yeah, I watched the Ben Affleck Phantoms movie.
Yeah, and it was I think they did a pass on the book, and they did some new cover art.
Which interestingly, so the 98 movie was written by Dean Koontz.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Like he did the screenplay.
Okay.
So you can't blame that movie on somebody else. Like, oh, they fucked it up. It's like, no, Dean Koontz went in and fucked it up.
Well, Dean Koontz has a very specific arc in his career. There was a time like the quality kind of started off and then it shot way up. This is one of those books. Watchers is another. and it's like, oh, when's the Dean Koontz going to reach the brink? And he did, and it just shot way down. So this is like one of his better books. But it's again, it's because I remember I read this book when I was like 10. It's just like it's a really fucked up book for a 10-year-old to read. Good night. Go to sleep now. That weird noise. No, that's not weird noises you're hearing. It's time to sleep. Why are you screaming?
Now, would there maybe kind of like mainstream like horror movies where it's like you come into an empty town mysteries that preceded this, or?
I don't know. I mean, this one. Let's talk about the book a little bit. So yeah, I don't. This is kind of. This is like the ghost ship stories, the lost colony at Roanoke. There's been all kinds of stories of where people disappear.
Yeah.
So I think that's more what he based this on. That, and there's a lot of H.P. Lovecraft in this.
Yeah.
At least I thought so. I don't know if other people have thought that, but I did. And so I think, yeah, this kind of builds around mystery. It builds suspense around mystery. Of like these people come back home to their town after being away to. It's like there's the doctor lady and her younger sister, and their mom just died, and so now she's got to raise the sister. So she was going to get the sister, and then she comes back into. What's it called? Snowfield, California. Yeah. It was like 500 people live in the town.
Yep.
And so the two girls show up, and it's like it's dead quiet. No one's around. It's like that's weird, and there's gonna be spoilers from here on out. So if you're gonna read Phantoms, go read it and then come back, because I'm not gonna not spoil this because I can't talk about a book and not do that. But they
Well, we're old now, so we don't have everything's a spoiler, because the only way we can get each other to watch or read things is basically like, here's the interesting part, and like, oh, I should check that out then.
Yeah. Just because it's great character development, I won't say anything else. So anyway, they go into this town where they live, where the older lady is the doctor, and where's the character list? Because I'm just going to say names. Of course, my thing doesn't have a character list. So anyway, and they don't find anyone, and then they do start finding people. They find bodies but people are just dead, and they look bloated and bruised. And then when they go into the bakery, weirdly enough, the bakery owned by Jewish people, they find their hands and heads in an oven, which is like, ooh, that's some weird.
Well, the hands are still on a rolling pin.
That's right. The hands are on the rolling pin, but the heads are in the ovens.
Yeah.
But the ovens
just
are on.
looking out from the oven.
From the oven, which is like, that's nightmare building. Right? And so you have no idea.
Let's see, Ginny and Lisa Page.
Yeah, Ginny Page and Ginny and Lisa.
I'm not sure which one's which. Oh, Ginny is a doctor.
Ginny's a doctor, so she's older. Lisa's her younger sister.
I'm gonna do you guys ever read that subreddit Men Writing Women?
No.
Oh, I've read a couple of the clips, yeah.
So it's basically like how men, when they write women, they just focus on sexualizing them.
Okay.
like one of the funniest, like they made a joke, but they basically like, this is how men write women, where it's like her boobs boobily towards the boobs.
Did you read the Men Writing Women one where it was a father and son playing in a D&D game? And so the older father is like maybe about 50 or 60 years old. And so he writes his female character, her description that has like her waistline, her bust size, how long her hair is, and how sexually explicit her imagery is, like every part of it, and it's like every part's sexualized. And the guy that's a dungeon master is like, this is really uncomfortable for me. I don't know if I want to run this dungeon master anymore. Just explain to this guy that he has to rewrite his character and not want to have sex with her, basically.
So,
but yeah, I could. Yeah.
I was debating is Dean Koontz is he just a creep? Because there's like something like I could just say he's just creep out, because he constantly mentions who's the younger, Lisa is the younger one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's about to be a woman, and it's like, I got boobs now and stuff like that, and it's like, well, this is creepy, and like, is he just being creepy, or is he being kind of leading things on to intentionally creep out the reader, so later on when you have people about to possibly sexually assault her, that they're extra nervous about it because they've already been creeped out by sexual descriptions of her.
Thing about Dean Koontz, like in his early career, like in the 50s or whatever, he's been writing a long time, and he's like 78 now. He wrote a lot of erotica.
Okay.
Because some of Dean Koontz books, in retrospect, like I know Watchers, and it's like it's like, oh, there seems to be like a lot of implied rape in these stories and stuff. But I think that was a kind of a way that people wrote serialized horror novels. Like
Yeah, man.
They weren't writing up; they were kind of writing down. If you
So-
know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
well, we got to get people interested. Let's swing tits around or something. When you said like men writing women, I thought immediately of Jack Nicholson's character in As Good as It Gets.
Oh,
Because remember what his quote was?
no.
The lady asked him, it's like, they say you're really good at writing women. How do you write women? And he goes, I just imagine a man, but with no responsibility or conscience or something like that. Just the complete asshole. The character was just this hate-filled writer. So yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, where's this going?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it just seemed to, kind of just, maybe I'm just seeing it with modern eyes, but it seemed disconcerting whenever he'd just casually sexualizes it. Like, I think she's supposed to be like 14 or something in this.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, and when the Stu Wargel entity comes out here, the stuff he says is like, you wouldn't say that to an underage girl in a novel or a movie now, because they would like slap an X rating on it or say that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because notice they didn't do that in the movie.
So I didn't know if it was just, like, oh, that's just Dean Koontz writing, or if it was like, it like prepped you to be extra worried about her later on when she meets Stu.
I don't know. That's a good question. I wouldn't know how to lay the groundwork. I don't know if there was groundwork in that or not, or if that's just the way he wrote.
Also, it seemed kind of weird. Maybe it's a throw. Maybe modern writing is different, but like the full stop character description, like
Yeah.
we're gonna stop the story and describe how tall somebody is. Like that seemed like really like old school. Because I think nowadays you just kind of like weave a character description throughout the book. Like you give like specific characteristics, move on, and maybe pick another one. And I think one that like it keeps the flow of the book, but also I think nowadays people are writing with the intent of these things being turned into movies, so you don't want to over describe somebody, so you leave out a potential casting choice or something.
Yeah, I don't know if this is. Yeah, you're right. I don't know if that's a writer's writing choice or an editor's choice anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, if you're going to sell the movie rights to this, you can't make your character into, like a Chinese sheriff, and you can't cast Ben Affleck then. So,
Yeah, you can, just in a really racist role.
yeah, just a white knight, yeah, or whatever, yeah. But no, I mean, this is old school. This is a book from the 80s, in the early 80s, probably written, put together, and ideas formed in the 70s. So,
Yeah.
because this is like Stephen King.
Well, like how so you said you read this when you were a kid. Like, how did you come across it or know about it?
I think it had interesting cover art, and I'd heard Dean Koontz had. I heard his name, like, because I used to spend a lot of time in like libraries.
Yeah.
Because it was just something to do. It was before the internet, so you just find stuff in a library and just sit down and start reading it. And if it's like, oh, this is your thing, then great. And if not, then put it back and get something else. And I think I'd heard his name, but I believe I got it from the library and read it. So that's how I came across it, and that was that's how I got it. Yeah, that's how I got it. And I remember it didn't take me long to read it.
Okay.
And because it's a horrifying story. Now, rereading it again, because I hadn't thought about it in a while, because I knew they had that movie with Ben Affleck, and that was really the last time I thought of Phantoms, and it came up on our thing, and it's like, oh, this is a book I remember as a little kid that did a great job of building suspense. and kind of had a complete story, even though the payoff wasn't maybe as cool as the suspense was.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
always a
Well,
problem.
I kind of like that. Like it starts out as what could have done this, and it's just like a mass omnipresence, a mass evil omnipresence. That's all you can imagine that can do this. And then like through scientific means and all this other stuff, they figure out what it is, and it's a physical thing.
Yeah, and it's a thing from Earth,
Yeah.
which I thought, because when I read this book, I remembered thinking, yeah, this is something the evil government's done. This is some kind of weapon or something. This is like nerve gas that, like, because they even and they hypothesize. All these characters think these things thoughts as the reader does through the book. It's like, oh, this has got to be like some kind of weird nerve agent where it kills most people, but some people go insane and become murderers. It's like, that makes sense. That fits. And then you find out, no, it's not that. And then you got the two guys from the Air Force that are with the investigative team. It's like, our specialty is, eventually it comes out that they're into extraterrestrial stuff. It's like, yeah, the aliens, it's got to be the work of aliens. Nope.
Yeah, I also like that. Like if aliens ever contact us, we might misconstrue, murder and vivisection as an attack on Earth, where really it's just them trying to figure us out.
Right.
Like how to interpret that would be weird.
Yes, but I mean, when another one of my favorite book series is the Stephen R. Donaldson Gap Cycle. Like that's about humans and aliens completely missing each other
Yeah.
and not understanding. Like, well, why would they give us this weird mutagenic poison? It's like, well, that's all they are, is biological. They don't have mechanical shit. But that's another thing. But yeah, it teases all these things. And then when you get into the Timothy Flight part of it, it's like, oh, it's supernatural. But then you find out it's not even really that. It's like, I mean, it's so evil and crazy that it might as well be. And it seems to like to think it's Satan, but it's like, oh, it's just borrowing all this. It's like it's kind of its own thing. But there's a lot of exposition and ideas thrown around about what this is, which I kind of liked.
Yeah, I like because I feel like in a lot of movies like this, would be a standard horror movie, you'd never like investigate. You'd only get so far with how you investigate the paranormal, and then after that, it's just like trying to survive, and there's no like information gathering and debate anymore. It's like, well, let's just get to it. Like, let's just get to the horror.
Let's get to the flamethrowers and.
Which, like, I think this would make a pretty good series now.
Yeah.
Rather than what they did with the movie, which is pretty much just like, well, let's just make a horror movie. I mean, they did have the investigative side, but like they pretty much just abandoned that within 10 minutes of like having it happen.
They show up and get killed, and it's like, no, all the scientists are dead. What do we do?
Yeah,
now?
that was a bummer because like I think I mean this wasn't intended, but like in this. Like I think the secret hero of the movie is that what the fuck's her name? The Asian.
The Asian scientist.
What's her name?
Namaguchi, wasn't it?
No, or in the movie or the book.
In the book.
No, it wasn't Namaguchi in the book. Shit. But
Sorry,
anyway,
fucked it up. Anyway, I like there's a part where it's like, she's the scientist. Her whole team's dead, but she's still alive, and she figures out like maybe a way to kill this, but she keeps it a secret to herself because obviously this thing can just hear them, and like they're sitting there debating. It's like, what can we do to kill this? And she even has a thought like, well, it's listening to us, and she like holds it back, and then she like gets like them to send her stuff, but she has to do it in a clever way to get it specifically. And she ends up dying from it, and like other people end up being the hero of the movie. It's like, oh, that's a fucking bummer because really she saved the day, and she's not a character until like the last half of the book, and they don't do any character development with it. But yeah, I just thought she was like the secret hero of the book, and kind of
Yamaguchi was her name.
Was it okay?
Yeah.
And it's even worse in the movie. They just immediately kill her. Like I don't even think she has a character introduction.
Yeah, the book's much better.
Andrew, you read this pretty quickly, so I figured that, like, it flowed pretty well for you, or you liked it.
No, I thought the story vibe really well, and I liked the tension he built up until the ending. I thought the ending kind of sucked.
Yeah, the very ending seems tacked on and unnecessary, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the characters, the 14-year-old is very overly sexualized by everyone, which doesn't make any. I just figured that was very much the horror cliche because Stephen King does that all the fucking time.
She's
So I
young,
just
but on her
figured-
way to becoming a woman. Shut up, Dean Koontz. I don't want to hear about a 14-year-old becoming a woman.
Well, Stephen King does just as much fucked up shit or worse, so technically.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
all the bullies jerking and blowing each other in the junkyard and it, or the child rape scene in the sewer. I mean, which one do you want to pick from those? I mean, but I just figured it was
Okay.
basically what. Oh, I just figured it was basically par for the course. So I guess I wasn't comfortable. I didn't bat an eye after that, though.
Yeah, it's also one of, like, am I just seeing this with modern eyes? Would, like, if somebody read horror novels back in the 80s, would they just not bat an eye at that or not even file it away as something interesting?
No, I mean, watch what's that movie called? Where the kids are trying to, because I remember Kevin Smith had a brilliant commentary on movies from the 80s that had teenage characters that were raped on film, and it was like part of the story. It's like, you can't do that now. Like that is, you have to make
Oh,
those
that Fame movie, right?
Fame. Yeah. It's like, yeah, this guy was like, so things you were a lot more permissive back then. And I think the reason that they're not so much now is because we're realizing, oh wait, this stuff really happens. This isn't just fiction. Because like there's people waiting out there to do this stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a product of its time.
But like the mentions of all the historical events of like disappearances that were actually real and used in the book was a nice touch. It had a lot of depth to the mystery of what was going on. Other than that, like I thought all the character development was pretty good. I mean, there wasn't anybody that I felt like was out of place and didn't fit in the story. And like I said, it really
Well, except
delivered.
for that serial killer guy.
Well, yeah, he didn't fit in. Well, I didn't really mention him because it's like
that would have been so great if that led to anything.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
satanic bikers get together and
Because what I thought was going to happen there was I thought he was going to accidentally like kill the thing and be a hero, but be a terrible person that does it.
oh.
yeah,
Like I thought that would have been more interesting than what the fuck they did.
it actually would have been. Yeah.
I just thought it was going to be some stupid low rent kill at the end of the book. Like he stumbles into it and gets killed when they think everybody is saved. So it's like a way to continue the story or something. So I thought that's what it was set up for, but it wasn't at all. Because
Yeah.
they even use the biker gang really dumb. And then there's even a weird sex part with that too, where it's like, yeah, we just bring people up here to fuck them and kill them and bury them in the ground somewhere. It's like Jesus Christ.
Do you know if does Dean Koontz do like follow-ups or sequels to any of his stuff?
He didn't do a follow-up or a sequel to this.
Yeah. But does he do it with any of his stuff?
He started to do that later in his career. Like I forget what.
Because I know like comparing, well, it's easy to compare him to Stephen King. Stephen King like doesn't serialize most of his stuff. He just has like the Dark
The
Tower
Gunslinger.
series. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
kind of the only stuff he really does follow-ups to.
Well, and some of those like Mr. Mercedes and all that, like that all has a similar, those have the same characters from The Outsider. It's they're all kind of, they pass through. But as far as Dean Koontz, I'm trying to think. I know like we had the Odd Thomas series, and then they had
Okay.
the Moonlight Bay series, which wasn't very good, and because that was all. Those were characters from Mr. Murder and some other stuff that were like written into the story as other things. But in the 80s, like in what I'm going to call the golden age of Dean Koontz, which looked like Phantoms and Watchers and stuff. I don't think those ever had follow-ups
Okay.
or even characters that crossed over into other stories, however briefly. Could be wrong, but I don't remember that in some of his golden age stuff. But yeah, this book is it's coming close to being 40 years old. I mean,
Oh, jeez.
I know it was kind of updated a little bit, but it's still one thing I liked about this book is that even rereading it, it's like, it holds up pretty well.
Well, I had an interesting thought about it because it's almost like inspired me to write more.
Okay.
Because I'm not really well. I'm not I'm not really one to judge this. I think this is competently written. I don't necessarily think it's well written.
Well, I mean, by well written, what do you mean? Like it's
It's
childish?
it's pretty straightforward. It's not there's not any kind of like lofty prose or like really like super imaginative, like really makes you think. It's just kind of like here's the events presented in horrifying fashion.
Oh, it's written at an 8th grade level. Yeah, we're not like moving. Yeah, we're not vividly describing things or giving people dark backstories that really seem to really influence their behavior. Some of them do have dark backstories, but it doesn't really affect what they're doing. Like the sheriff, his wife and his son were in a horrible car wreck, and
Well, I feel like the way like Stephen King describes things, where he'll just take everyday objects and like what he says seems almost innocuous, but like how you feel is like that's terrifying. And here
Yeah.
it's just like pretty. It's kind of just straightforward.
yeah, this is yeah. I see what you're saying, and you're right.
Well, I like think of like where the Dubliners, where it's like it's not like that really has any great plotting or anything, but it has very like the way people talk and sort of like it inspires imagination, even though if they're not talking about anything at all. And here's there's not really like that kind of like that kind of like lofty prose, and also like sometimes like that would just get in the way. This seems to be like a procedural, like a horror procedural in a way. So.
Yeah, a lot of Kuntz has that. That's exactly his style, where there's not there is a story, and there is a lot of there's a lot of stuff going on. And there's a lot of information being given, like, oh, this could be this could be that. But yeah, it's not like.
Like, I remember like one of the Redline Media, the guy, he was like they were watching a movie and they're talking about the guy, how this guy's writing, and he like mentions a quote about like he talks about like the moon looked like a clipped toenail on like a bed of cotton, and like there's nothing like that in here.
No. Yeah, there's not even really good hard-boiled dialogue, and it's not even like a lot of crude stuff, except some of the stuff Wargel says.
Yeah.
But like everyone hates that guy, like because a lot of these people are almost Christ-like in their innocence and their purity of thought and deed, and it's like, well, that's a little weird. But yeah, no.
But
Yeah,
like
I mean,
it's effective
with
and
Dean
competent, which like that's what you need to do. But yeah.
Well, with Dean Koontz, I'll tell you with some of his other books, like you got the good people, and they're kind of like innocent people thrown into stuff, and then you got the bad people who are really bad, like bad people, like people that just seem just like unnecessarily cruel and wicked, kind of like the creature in this novel. Like it doesn't need to be that cruel and wicked; it just chooses to be because.
Well, and they theorize that they got that from eating people. Like that's what it got from people is evilness.
The worst parts of
Like it was never meant to. It was it had no direction otherwise, but it started eating people, and then that's the direction it gave itself.
yeah.
Which is an interesting idea to ponder.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all his writing is in that level you're talking about, where it's like straightforward. And also it kind of makes the fatal flaw, and even Stephen King does this sometimes, where the evil stuff is dumb. Like it's so arrogant or so whatever. It's like blind to the fact that it's like you're showing your whole card, dude. You're telling the people how to defeat you, and they're not even having to really like work that hard at it. But that's a problem with you never want to give evil like it's like sometimes evil can be smart. Like a lot of horror writers don't do that. And there's a reason why too. It's like, is this going to be a horror novel or a treatise on the many shades of mankind's existence? Like, where's that going? I just want to see people get destroyed, and I want to see the good people win. So yeah, you kind of got to write to your audience, without being like too high-minded. But
Well, I think like we were talking about before, I think everything besides the very ending of this book is actually good. And if he just would have stopped it, the monster being dead and everybody kind of like, I don't know, noticing the town seemed different and, back to where it was supposed to be, I think he could have ended it there and no one would have complained.
no,
But instead it's like some weird hospital scene where basically it makes no sense that like two people said they're powered by the devil, they can't die until they complete their bidding. Get summarily killed quickly by two people startled that they had the drop on.
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
And it took them 5 days to get to the hospital because they were stoned out of their minds for 5 days.
Makes sense.
Yeah, some of the reviews I read of this book said that almost seemed like that was an editing tack on. Like, hey, you got to come up with something to wrap this up. And it's like, and probably a year after the book was written, it's like, okay, let's see. Yeah, I mean, nobody knows, but they think that like.
Well, it feels like it was just the cap on. So you start with what's the black sheriff's name? It's like Tao or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. Or something. Like that.
And yeah, it's him. It's kind of like introducing him. That was him that caught the guy, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting him, like how he's an effective detective, and that should be a new series on HBO. The Effective Detective.
Yeah.
And then they just like come back to it for some reason. I don't know. It seemed like they weave it throughout, like him escaping and stuff like that, and completely tears apart that sheriff's house and finds money and guns.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this will be interesting if this goes somewhere. Like,
how's this gonna fight ancient evil? Oh, okay. It's
or
not.
join it,
Or join with it. Like, what could it offer this thing? Nothing, apparently, but except obedience. And
I know what it's like to kill a kid. It's like, I know what it's like to kill a town of kids.
It's kind of interesting, though. One thing I liked about this book was that it wasn't one of those like race against the clock, like, oh, if we could only get to the outside world or something, you know what I mean? It's like the outside world knows roughly what's going on.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be like a lot of like, that doesn't have a lot of influence. It stays focused on the characters.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure somebody's talking about, okay, when do we drop the nuclear weapons? But that doesn't really come into it.
Yeah, they're not with the outside military. They're only with the lab group that gets sent in.
Yeah.
Which I like when they get sent in, they're immediately like, hey, get away from us. Like, we're just here to see what's going on. We're not here to save you.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if you're infected, but we're really not here to help you. And, but they're not scientists that act dumb either, essentially.
No, I mean, like when they, they start talking about it and it knows things, and like the guy's completely skeptical, as you would be if you were that guy.
Yeah. Buy in right away. It's like, what are you fucking people crazy?
It's like, I haven't seen it, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you could be infected by something crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, they think it's like a Russian weapon or something.
Yeah.
Because like this has all the telltale signs of a bite until they analyze the blood, and it's like, what's in the blood? It's like nothing, not even blood. What does that mean? You don't know. What does the computer say? Nothing. And they all just kind of get killed except for the one lady, and that's even off. It's like
they just disappear at one point.
Yeah, kind of like the town. So yeah,
it starts talking to the computer.
So yeah, which just kind of reminded me of the movie. What was that movie? It was a bad movie, but it had some fun parts. Sphere, where it would talk through the computer, but in almost nonsense or just strange ways at first, and then.
I never read that book. Should we read that book for this feature sometime?
That's not very interesting.
Oh, okay.
It's like the movie's bad, but the books it's like that's probably the best version of the movie's probably the best version of the book.
Oh, okay.
Kind of just it's like a lot of interesting ideas that don't really hold together. So it is interesting though that the thing how they kill the thing is actually like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's
no,
in real life.
No, it doesn't work. But like the idea, here they make the conceit that like, oh, he got it to work.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually the first thing I thought of when they said it was like mostly oil based. I'm like, oh, there's bacteria that eats that. Maybe they'll actually spray it on that. Like, oh, it happened. Okay. Yep. Like, I don't think it would happen that rapidly either. But yeah, I mean.
Well, actually, that's kind of liked about how like when they utilize I can't remember what it's called. It's just some oil deoxitizer.
Chakrabarty's miracle. Actually, his name's Ananda Chakrabarty. He's a real guy who invented it. Problem is, it doesn't last long in air, or there's something that like, yeah, this could work if.
Yeah, it's something that like worked in the lab but didn't work in real life.
Or
Or
it was
in
the
practical life.
organism ever patented too. That is all true.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you don't pour it on the thing and it just immediately kills it. Like it still has like room to move and kill you after you spray it on it.
Yeah.
Which is like a danger that constantly happens like at the end of the book where it's like, well, we got it, we sprayed it with the thing. It's like, it's still moving. Shit.
Yeah, it's not like hosing it down with acid and it just dissolves. It's like, no, it takes a little bit.
Yeah, it does do that. It just takes a while.
So yeah, this is a a good complete book that's not gonna like challenge a lot of things, but it's got some interesting ideas and it flows well. Which is if you're just doing summer reading and you don't really want to think about the state of the universe, it's a good book to read. All Dean Koontz books and from his golden period are like that. They're very readable. It's like I can't wait to turn this back on or read this or whatever.
And the movie's interesting in that it does the start well, and then they just like it didn't just choose through the material so quickly, and like needlessly so. Gets rid of the black sheriff. I don't know why. I guess you just need to lighten up the cat. Although the Stu Wargel stuff is more interesting because you have a good actor as Stu Wargel.
Yeah.
It's a really young cast, and like I guess it's a good young cast, but the story kind of needed more maturity to it, so it kind of just seems weird by today's standards.
Yeah.
And Ben Affleck wasn't really necessarily like a great actor then, so he's fine for what it is, but
yeah,
it kind of seemed like parts where he was like, it seemed like he wasn't into the character because what he was saying was ridiculous.
Yeah. Movie seemed, as I remember, the movie seemed rushed. It's like we got.
Well, also it just like had no budget.
Yeah.
Or it seemed like it had no budget because it was a Dimension film, which was Bob Weinstein. He ran the horror wing of Miramax, which was Dimension Films. So yeah,
because I've only saw the movie once. I don't remember it like fondly or really that well.
No,
so.
well, also I had like CGI, but like it was like 98 CGI on a budget, so it wasn't very good.
Oh.
And also it's just the audio in it is poorly done, and it's directed. The guy who directs it, he kind of directs it like he's doing an impression of Sam Raimi, but a bad one.
Oh, okay.
So it's not well directed, but still like the idea of like you happen upon this town and it's empty, like it's effective at first, and then the kind of the rest of it just falls apart. But the Stu Wargel stuff is more interesting with Liev Schreiber as just a ethereal ghost who's fucking crazy and weird.
I mean, I wouldn't picture him to play that role, but I mean, I guess if he did do a good job.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the way he's described in the book, he's just a fat, stupid sheriff who seems to have the job by accident, and then like talks about wanting to have sex with children. It's like, well, it's like this is a terrible character. And that's not his character in Phantoms. He's just he is like weird and sexual and stuff, but like he's just more weird and creepy in the movie.
Yeah.
Because if you think about like Phantoms, like that cast it's like coming after Scream, which kind of makes like when you think about it that way, it's like this is chasing Scream in some weird way. But
okay.
But like Phantoms isn't a subversive movie, so like you're not doing any kind of meta stuff with Phantoms. You're just making a horror movie with a young cast.
I just wonder how they got Liev Schreiber for that movie.
Oh, he's young at that time, so.
Yeah, this guy's just such a good actor.
Yeah. And good and bad things. That's how you know he's a really good actor. It's like, this movie sucks. He's good.
Yeah, he was like the best part of the reboot of The Manchurian Candidate. And he was opposite Denzel Washington, who's always good. He was like the better part of that movie.
Or
bad guy, kind of.
Was he in the X-Men Wolverine's origin movie?
Yeah, he was.
I remember he was pretty good in that. He's the best thing in that, essentially. So.
Yeah.
Not a hard thing to do in that movie, but
No.
Because I don't think did Hugh Jackman even give a good performance in that movie, or did he just give it okay?
I mean, he did an okay performance. It was just really, and it had that terrible CGI claw scene that was awful, where his claws looked like they were like painted on, like they're in a Roger like Roger Rabbit movie, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, okay.
And then just a lot of, and then like the stupid stuff they did with Deadpool. I get conceptually seems interesting, but the way they pulled it off was stupid. So. Hey, and they fight on a cooling tower, which that visually is kind of cool, but then it's just kind of lame at the end. I don't know. It's a bad movie, so you don't have to watch it.
I won't.
Just watch.
Yeah.
You don't even have to see the Wolverine movie. Just watch Logan. That's a good.
Yeah,
Oh.
I've been meaning to watch that. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Yeah, you should watch that.
Yeah. Everyone tells me I should, and I just gotta find it.
Well, I don't know how much like you're like really into comic book movies, but like here's a comic book movie that's essentially like it's like it throws away the it's basically throws away the franchise essentially.
Oh,
It's like this is a definite end, and you're not going to be happy.
happy ending. Yeah, because isn't that what that was? Hugh Jackman said it's the last time he's playing that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because MCU came out with official like plan for how they're going to introduce the X-Men. It's going to be basically all solo Avenger movies, and they're sticking away from all the main cast from the main ones like Magneto, Wolverine, and Cyclops. Or wait, no, Cyclops is going to be the new one, but basically like all the popular characters aren't going to be in anything for a while, just to let people forget about them, basically.
Oh.
So, because I guess like Havoc's going to be one of them, and then they're going to call Jean Grey's character like Miss Marvel or something like that, which doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But
Yeah,
there's, like,
there's
three-
already a Ms. Marvel, and then she becomes
Oh no, it's Marvel Girl. Sorry, Marvel Girl.
Marvel. Okay.
And so there's Miss Marvel, then there's Captain Marvel, and then so it's like, why the fuck do you need 3 Marvel
Well,
characters?
Well, so Ms. Marvel or no, fucking what's her name?
Girl.
Captain Marvel used to be Ms. Marvel, and then she became Captain Marvel, and then there's a new character called Ms. Marvel because she's a fan of Captain Marvel, and she's like
She's Pakistani, and she's like Elastigirl almost.
yeah, Pakistani from New Jersey, and then she gets like stretchy powers and she can morph into things. It's weird. she becomes Ms. Marvel.
But actually, that's a good comic book, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it's kind of weird because they're supposed to have like the Miss Marvel thing because they're trying to do like a teenage like Avengers movie too. So I don't know how all it's gonna work out if you have like 3 people with Marvel in their name. It's gonna be confusing to people that don't read comic books. It's like which Marvel is this again? I don't know, honey. But
Yeah,
no,
I had that on the list. I had the Marvel Rising thing, which is you can only watch that. Actually, I think you can see that on like the Disney XD website, but the if you have the Disney Plus, you can see it, and it's pretty interesting. It's essentially just like a kids cartoon of like a new Avenger force, but what was it called? Yeah, Marvel Rising, and it's a bunch of characters I don't know, and then there's Ms. Marvel, Squirrel Girl, and they're all like early college age or late teens. And then you got Spider Gwen or as part of the team. It's pretty good. I mean, it's more for like teenagers and kids, but I think it's still good. It's also like it seems like I don't think there's one white person in the group, so it seemed like this is this is just specifically made to piss off like MAGA people or something.
yeah, that's fine. Piss them off.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think it's really good for what it is. So, but yeah, Phantoms,
Yeah. Check it out.
Check it out. It's a good Dean Koontz book.
Yeah.
and check out the movie as a curiosity, but after you've read the book.
Book first, then watch the movie.
Isn't Morgan Freeman in that movie too?
No,
No, there's a Morgan.
Okay.
Freeman, like there's a like a poor man's Morgan Freeman in it.
Oh, okay.
The-
I guess I'm just confused. He's been in enough movies with like a hazmat suit. I guess I just pictured him in that movie.
Well,
Yeah.
what was the one?
Was
with,
he an Outbreak? With the
Yeah,
Mad
he was an Outbreak, and then there was like another volcano movie or something he was in. I think they had like the same fucking suit on. So
He was in that Stephen King book or movie too, the one about the.
Oh,
alien.
Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, he was the evil general.
oh,
Actually, did a good job in that. Like, there's some good performances in an otherwise bad movie. But yeah,
can I talk about Watchmen really quick since I just watched it, or
yeah.
Yeah.
you guys mind? All right, so superb fucking show. I mean, the ending was a little bit weird for me, but that was just because of plot holes for me. But I mean, other than that, like it was a really good show. It actually had a lot of good funny moments in it, as well as really good serious action. I didn't know Trent Reznor did the score for most of it, so that was entertaining because it was a really good score
Yeah.
throughout the whole thing. Probably my most impressive like cinematography scene was when she takes his nostalgia pills, and so she starts like not hallucinating, but like seeing all of his memories. And the shot where he arrests the guy and then he leaves the precinct and goes out onto the street, and the precinct's still a little part of the world and it's still kind of open in the background, where it's like, oh, okay, then he runs into the guy he just arrested again, then he goes back into the precinct while still on the street or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of a cool way of like saying he didn't leave his past behind him or whatever, he had to go back into it type of thing. So I was really impressed by that shot. That and the way they did the effects for Looking Glass, or is affectionately called Mirror Guy, in the whole show, which I thought was funny. And then everybody.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was CGI until like the corridor guys covered it. It's like, holy shit! But then it totally makes sense because they talk about like they didn't have a material that was stretchy enough that could be that reflective. So yeah, it was of course it's CGI.
But yeah, that's a lot of work just for the mass part of it. I mean, I was starting to get more let down in the last 2 episodes just because I thought there was a big plot hole with it's like, okay, so Dr. Manhattan, like, why the fuck is he just going to allow himself to be captured? It, like, makes no sense. Like, he has the power to see the future, but also just, like, materialize anywhere and blow people's heads off. And so it's like, why is he just going to allow himself to be captured and there's no way out of it kind of bullshit? And that's
I thought that was going to be something about, like, he's essentially a god at this point, and he's learned that he needs to let humanity determine its own fate, so he's just going to let it go. Like, that was my interpretation of it.
Yeah, but at least I guess I know he was kind of like amnesia and stuff, but like I wish they would have addressed that somewhat and been more like just him being aloof and kind of disconnected and not wanting to continue. Because he kind of got that sense of it, but yeah, it wasn't like spelled out, I guess.
Well, yeah, he thought the only way he could live is to not know who he was, so that's why he has the amnesia.
Yeah, and that and the bullet hail squid at the end was kind of stupid because basically it's like ripping through this giant metal floating ball, but then people in the theater are okay. And like this wood tar paper building. It's like, yeah, that's bullshit. This giant fucking orb crashes down and torn apart by a fucking bullet squid, but fucking half the people on the street are okay. And it's like, that's fucking horseshit. Otherwise, the whole fucking show is amazing, and props to them for... I mean, I'm pretty sure it was a really expensive show, but it was pretty awesome.
Probably. Yeah, I remember just seeing the previews, and I thought...
$1 million.
I remember seeing the previews and thinking, like, I don't think this is going to be good, because the previews made it seem like it was going to be so far up its own ass that it was going to be another Westworld season 2. That's the feeling I got. Maybe because I was burned by Westworld season 2, I was getting that feeling. But yeah, so I was like really pleasantly surprised. And like you said, like this, it's very serious for what it does, but it also has a sense of humor, which Westworld doesn't. So
yeah, and I think it's one of those perfect things where it's serious, or like I said before, like it's serious, but actually, since it has a sense of humor, it actually makes the show more realistic and likable because it's not just rigid characters all the time.
now, if you want to, I haven't followed this up, but like HBO's been doing this recently because like we were watching Chernobyl. We're like, yeah, you gotta listen to podcasts after you watch each episode. So there is a Watchmen podcast for each episode, but I have not listened to any of that yet.
I'll have to see if I can at least watch like the first episode and watch the first podcast where it leaves Hulu. I'm assuming by the end of
Well,
the month since
the-
it's Juneteenth.
The podcasts are free, so I think you can get those anywhere. But yeah, if you want to
Oh,
watch
okay.
something, because it's not like it talks over the show. It's not like an audio commentary. It's more like a an interview with the creators.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm
But-
a big. One of the few comic books the only comic books I really like and know well is like this one and V for Vendetta, and it's the guy who's the guy, Alan Moore.
Yeah.
Like these kind of comics, I like, and especially I like Watchmen. And it's interesting how they kind of kept the flavor of that, but they moved it into a more modern time, because Watchmen's just set in the 80s, and this they moved it up to a more modern time, and they still kept the weirdness of it intact, which I appreciated. But they told a different story too. Like it's like some of the old characters are there, but really it's different people at this point. So.
And then there's like other supplemental material, because remember that like guy who like greases himself up and slides in the sewer and you never see that
Yeah.
ever again. Apparently
Lube
there's there's supplemental material to like who that guy is and how it works. So there's like other stuff out there that you can get.
Yeah, that's
'Cause-
the FBI agent.
Yeah, it's the FBI agent.
Lube Man. Yeah, there's a whole like if you go to the HBO website for the show, there's something it's like his files, and it explains the state of the world, because it's set in like 2000 something. I think it's set now, but there's a reason they don't have the internet. They don't have like big cell phones, and it's all explained in this web, because you never. I noticed that in the movie. It's like you never see anyone see people using pagers and phones, but nobody's like getting on the internet. It's like, what happened to Dr. Manhattan? Like, where is that? And you find out why they don't have any of that stuff. So it's kind of it's an interesting updating of it.
I know my wife was really surprised by because how like they have the Minutemen show kind of like running in the background, and how like the FBI agents like, oh, that show is like pretty much horse shit, and like it takes a lot of liberties with stuff. And so like the whole like two guys fucking the Captain Metropolis and fucking goddamn it, can't remember the other guys. But anyway, so they're having sex or whatever in the show, and then it like cuts to him going down to the basement, and then he takes his nostalgia pills, and like goes all of a sudden from like being married to that one woman and really liking her to like just randomly fucking Captain Metropolis for some reason. My wife was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm kind of confused too." So it's like, I don't know.
He's complicated.
But then like almost never touches on that again, almost, except for the payphone call he makes or whatever. So it's like, I wonder what that was and stuff like that. So it's just, but at the same time, it's like, well, I guess it doesn't really matter to the story, but at the same time, it just seems like weird to throw it in there. Plus, like all the times where there's like no nudity for a while, so you're just staring at the screen openly, and then there's a big giant cock in your face. Like, so it's like, well, okay, cock. Oh,
It's a way to show that life is truly complicated and mysterious.
well, because I figured a lot of the actors, like obviously the woman that played the lead role, like she must have had a no nudity clause because she didn't have any in the show. But I figured the other guy was the same way, because he'd been in certain scenes. Because all of a sudden, like you just see certain angles and he's just walking, and you don't see anything. Fine, I don't care. And so he gets into the lair, and then like all of a sudden, like he's finally talking, and it's like, oh, okay, there's his dick. It's like apparently just wait for the big money shot. I don't know.
That's why we hired you.
What we were waiting for.
Oh, it's just kind of well, because usually I think HBO's gotten a lot more bold with stuff like that, and it's not so much female nudity anymore. It's just like shoving dicks in your face a lot. So I don't...
Equal opportunity nudity.
Yeah, keep people interested.
So all
But
the flaccid penises you could want, the HBO can show them to you.
Oh, I figured that was the rule. Otherwise, it's basically pornography, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I figured that was pretty much the rule, since it seems kind of weird that it's like, oh, okay, you can see every bit of the female body, but like the male penis has to be flaccid.
I don't think you can show a pussy unless it's like medically valid.
Oh, okay. I guess I figured anymore with all the primetime stuff that basically was softcore porn anyway. So I don't know.
But yeah, you can show all the tits and bush and ass you want. Though.
all that you want.
And
don't wanna-
and what did you think was going on with Jeremy Irons before they reveal it? Like, did you have like what was your
Okay.
guess?
So my guess before is that was Dr. Manhattan kind of like figuring stuff out on Mars or whatever planet he was on, basically, and just pretending to be somebody, because I didn't make the connection that it was the Ozma, or God, I can't pronounce his fucking name.
Ozymandias?
But basically, yeah, the really really smart villain from the movie. I didn't think it was him because I thought he had died in the movie if I remembered right. So that's why I was like, oh, he's not him. And then eventually it was like, oh yeah, he's just trapped in some prison that Dr. Manhattan made for him, just because basically all the weird shit that was going on and all the stuff like tomatoes growing on trees and babies out of lakes. I'm like, there's no way in fuck this is like a real part of the world. It has to be something that like Dr. Manhattan made on a planet or some prison for him personally for doing what he did. And then it's like, oh, okay, that did happen. So that was kind of entertaining.
I didn't think it was on another planet until like later on, but Nathan like picked up on it like immediately. I didn't know.
Oh, as soon as had the guy frozen in the spacesuit, then I was like, oh yeah, it's on another planet. So
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, like it was that you were guessing because there's that part where it shows news footage of Dr. Manhattan building something on Mars.
Yeah.
And you assumed that's that his Jeremy Irons stuff was in the future and like he'd already like destroyed it or whatever, and we're gonna see what happened. But
Yeah, that didn't turn out to be it. Yeah.
not exactly, but you know, kind of.
well, there was the manor they were in that fake world. There's 3 versions of it in the show. There was the sand thing that collapsed right away from the Mars shot, and then there was her kid building it in exact like whatever the Rector set thing he built that like he tossed aside or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's definitely like a construct that's like popular. People have seen her, like it's around in the world. So I don't know. And I actually picked up on the squid thing right away because like when they first started showing shit dropping on the windshield, I was like, is that squid? It was like, it is squid. Okay, that's fucking weird. But then like the fucking reveal that like Looking Glass was like some Jehovah's Witness trying to convert people on Doomsday or whatever, and gets stripped naked in a hall of mirrors, and it's like he survives because he's surrounded by mirrors basically. It's like, oh, that's fucking weird. So, but no, fucking awesome show. I hope they do another season or something like it because HBO really needs new content. So
No, they got stuff, but yeah, we've been lamenting that its next big show is the Perry Mason show. And have you seen previews for that? Why?
I guess I haven't seen previews for it.
Yeah, he's not a lawyer. He's like a private detective or something.
Yeah, this is before he becomes a lawyer.
So yeah, I don't think it looks good. Nathan seems to be more optimistic, but you really like that guy from the is it John Reese something or whatever?
John Reese Myers from the Americans.
Yeah.
Good actor. Good actor and a great show.
And then the other big show, because we were talking about like what's the big shows on the horizon, and then I remember the Boys season 2 is supposed to be coming out soon.
Yep.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this summer, I think.
Season 3 of Dark will be out soon.
Oh yeah. I think is that this week?
Maybe. I think so.
Yeah, I think it's this week. I'm not sure. It's either this week or next week. It's soon. Yeah. I need to catch up on season 2.
Yeah.
And well, it's weird for me because I prefer to watch it, or I'm trying to watch it in the original German. So
Oh yeah, you can somewhat follow along with that.
yes,
お題はジューシーな肉料理よ
very limitedly, but yeah, if they speak in simple sentences, it's like, oh, I know what he said. I mean, I still watch it with subtitles. I'm not a psychopath, so. But yeah, it's different from how everyone else is watching it with the dubs.
Well, like I said, when I first watched it, it just comes up in English.
Oh yeah.
And it was so well made. It was so well shot. Like I'm talking like the first 10 minutes of watching it. And basically, like German people don't have a strikingly different look from us.
Yeah.
They all dress like us. They sort of look like us. So I thought I was watching a really well-made movie where they fucked up the ADR or something. I was like, that's great, like production value. Why did they totally screw up? and I looked it up. It's like, oh, this is a German show. Okay, so they're just dubbed over in English, but they did such a good job at dubbing it, like it didn't seem like that out of place. I just thought, because I didn't know, it just recommended like watch this. This is good. Didn't say anything about it being German.
Yeah.
And I started up, and it rolls intro, and all the intro, it doesn't say un film d or anything like that, and it's like, oh, okay. Why did they fuck up the ADR? And then it's like, oh, this is shot in German. They're speaking another language. They must be.
Oh,
'Cause
man.
some of that stuff is like, it's obvious.
Yeah. It says season 3 comes out next Saturday. So
Next Saturday, okay. Yeah, that's an interesting German combination of Lost and a bunch of other ideas all thrown together. Time travel and nuclear war and everything else. And I think aliens in this season. But it's just essentially just a grim show with stuff happening that's kind of heartbreaking. Like I said,
Yeah, so
the theme of the show is, of course, God hates us. That's why we know we're German. Because there's a lot of religious stuff comes into it too, but
yeah.
almost cynically in there. It's like, we know there's a God and he hates us. He would never allow this to happen. And they have a narrator that narrates in a voice that sounds exactly like that, because it's a guy who got burnt badly, so his voice is a little weird sounding, but he provides like narrative parts in the show. So yeah, just watch it. It'll be fun.
So I just watched the Perry Mason trailer.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm really hyped for the show or not. It's a period piece, which I'm not really a big fan of, but also it just seems like it's a slow burn, which fine. But I don't know. There's something similar right now from, I think, Showtime or Cinemax that...
the Penny Dreadful City of Angels?
Yeah, I'd rather watch that. And I thought that show was pretty good the first episode anyway.
That's what I told Nathan last week.
Really?
Yeah, I said the Penny Dreadful City of Angels looks a lot more interesting. Is there like supernatural stuff in that? Because that's what Penny Dreadful was, like supernatural stuff. Is this like a continuation of the series, like storyline, or is it just like thematically similar?
I think it's just thematically similar. It's just another supernatural event or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see any ties into it. At least the first episode I got to watch for free, I didn't see anything. So.
Well, so you saw the first. How was it?
I thought it was really good, actually. Like, they had a really good, like, basically the episode, because, God damn it, Nathan Lane?
Yeah.
Is that the guy? Okay, so he's the partner. He's actually a pretty good cast. Like, he seems like he actually fits really well, and I was worried he wasn't going to work in that show. And then the whole family dynamic sets up really well in the first episode, and it comes to the head where it's the riot from them trying to tear down the neighborhood. And so his brother is the opposition, and he's like, basically trying to get everybody geared up for war. And he doesn't want to show up because he doesn't want to hurt his family. But then his mom's like, bargaining with the god of death the whole time. Because she's like, please protect my family. And then the god of death shows up, and it's like, the fuck you talking about, woman? We're not doing anything. And it's like, yeah, your sister's running amok, and she's going to destroy you and stuff like that. And she doesn't pay attention to her. And it's like, yeah, her sister's been pulling strings with like the Nazis and a bunch of other people to basically make this giant race war happen in LA to kill a bunch of people and claim souls. And so it's like this huge race war kicks off with like a bunch of cops and civilians killed at this riot where they're tearing down the neighborhood they used to live in.
Huh.
And that's where the episode ends. And so it's like, or because his brother gets shot while also killing a couple officers, so it's not really clear if he got killed or injured, and it seems like he got injured from the previews for the next episode. So it'd be interesting to see how that show continues.
Oh, and Nathan, did you watch any of the Plot Against America?
I read the book. I haven't gotten a chance to see that yet.
Okay.
Did you watch some of it?
No, I remember telling you that it's out because you thought it was coming out. I was like, no, it's already out. And then you're like, oh, I gotta see that. So.
Yeah, I'll probably watch that tomorrow when I've got more IKEA to assemble. So.
And there was a third series I was thinking about. Oh well, doesn't matter.
Is anybody gonna watch Palm Springs when it comes out in a couple weeks?
Oh yeah, that seems fun.
Yeah, seems like kind of like a different take on Groundhog Day with like another person and weirder shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's essentially just Groundhog Day, but it looks like it gets even darker with it.
So plus, I have no idea if Andy Samberg like helped write the script or anything, but I mean, I guess I could research that at some point too. But
I don't think so, but I don't know. So it didn't seem like, I don't think it was a Lonely Island production or anything like that, but who knows? It seems very goofy and dark for what it's supposed to be.
All
but
right.
no, the only,
Well, do you guys have anything else? Sorry.
no, I'm good.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.